Welcome to Chicago Bulls Chat with C-Red UK. This podcast is part of the Fans First Sports Network. Wherever or however you're listening, make sure to rate, review and subscribe. It helps us out and means you never miss another episode. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit the thumbs up button and leave some comments for us to get back to. And for all the C-Red UK action, check out the Discord channel and across the socials. Now, over to your hosts, Matt Hearn and Neill Dunn.
Welcome back. I'm Matt, and I am actually joined by Neill this time. How are we doing, Neill?
I'm good. Nice to be back recording together again.
Yeah, I mean, we did the one just straight after the draft, didn't we? But it was kind of not rushed, but it was early, late, whatever it was. So we just went.
Yeah, it's a distant memory. It was a bit of a dream, that one. I was half asleep.
Yeah. Obviously, we have been putting out single videos or solo videos, trying to cover everything. But we'll get each other's opinions on certain things on this one and discuss what next for the Bulls in terms of free agency, or what we think, or what we hope, or whatever. Obviously, first up is there's been two Bulls in action today.
Yes.
The National Bulls are back, and them two Bulls are, well, first up was Josh Giddey representing Australia against China. It's like just an exhibition match before they start their showcase games before the Olympics. Australia ended up winning 107-87. Giddey only played 7 minutes, but he scored 2 points, which was 1 of 4 from the field. I think he attempted 1 3-pointer in that. 3 assists, 3 rebounds, 1 steal. Obviously, I did put it out on the socials, and there was mixed reaction.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people saying they hope he doesn't stand in the way of Lonzo Ball. I think Lonzo's knees might have something to say about that, but
I think his knees might stand in the way of Lonzo Ball.
Just let's hope he can just stand, shall we? Anyway. But he is coming back. And there's a lot of questions of why did he only play 7 minutes? Well, Australia are trying to cut 5 players from the roster they've got at the minute in prep for the Olympics. So obviously Giddey's going. He's going to be a starter. I think they played just to get his legs under him a little bit. Obviously, not long landed back from Chicago after a 48-hour trip or whatever it was from the other side of the world. So they are playing each other again on Thursday. So whether he gets more minutes, doesn't play at all, who knows? But we'll put it out on the socials when we get the box score and stuff if he does play. And then the other one in action was Vucevic, who was representing Montenegro in the Olympic qualifying tournament.
Mm-hmm.
They played Brazil, which featured Bulls legend Cristiano Felicio. I don't think he did anything, to be fair. I didn't even look, to be fair, at what he did. But Montenegro lost 81-72. In that, Vucevic played 30 minutes. He got 17 points, 13 rebounds, 1 steal, and he attempted, he hit 1 of 3 3-pointers in all of that.
Double machine.
Yeah, and consistent with his threes as well. Montenegro play again tomorrow in that qualifying tournament against Cameroon. I'm not 100% sure what the format is, whether that means if they lose, they're out of the Olympics. They're already in the Olympics. I ain't got a clue, to be fair. But, I mean, to me, international basketball doesn't get the attention that it maybe should.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Especially from America, because obviously it is the NBA that are world champions. So, but for me, I like it. I think to anybody outside of America, representing the country actually means something, unless it's Joel Embiid that doesn't represent his own country. you know, and obviously he's not the only one. But
You are prickly tonight, aren't you?
it's just, I mean, like Josh Giddey playing 7 minutes. Australia are a proud country, aren't they? They love representing the country. So him
Yeah.
just playing that 7 minutes probably means a lot to him, you know. And at the end of the day, it's 7 minutes more than Lonzo Ball's played in the last 2.5 years anyway. So, anyway, I know you've not really checked in on that much, but anything you got anything on it? No.
Not really. I watched a small snippet of highlights from Vooch. I didn't see any of the Australian highlights at all yet. And look, it's always nice when you've got a Chicago Bull player playing in their own, representing their own nation. It's nice to be able to see them playing outside of what you normally see them playing, and see what they can bring to the table in a different environment sometimes, especially when they may be coming back to the Bulls or coming to the Bulls in Josh Giddey's situation. So I do like to watch it. But like I say, I've had a busy day. I haven't had a chance to get around to too much of it, but I will catch up with it and see how they get on.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the Australia one, I don't think there's many highlights of that anyway. To be fair, I know it was broadcast in Australia, and I know I think they're meant to have a showcase game against Team USA in the next week or so. So I imagine Giddey gets a lot more minutes in that game, and well, obviously it's a lot better opposition. So we'll see how he does in that one. Hopefully he can please that certain part of Bulls Nation that don't seem to like him for whatever reason. So, obviously, last episode or last video that I put out on Sunday, and it just basically covered everything that had happened on Saturday. I know obviously what your take is on it all, but the floor is yours. As we say, I'll start with Torrey Craig. Opted in, shocked everyone.
Yeah, I didn't expect it. I didn't think. I put it up on Twitter. I was surprised at his decision. Look, we talked about it previously, and we said that if he opted in, grand. It's not a bad thing. And if he didn't opt in, it was what we expected him to do. So he has opted in, and look, in a team that's going incredibly young, which we'll get into. It's always important to have some level of veteran experience and presence there. And Torrey Craig, I think, is a pretty good guy to have in that position. He seems to get on with everybody in the locker room. He seems to provide that kind of, where he wants to hand down his experience to the younger players. We've seen that last season. Potentially with us losing a player like Demar, who is the epitome of helping the young guys learn through his experience. I think having someone like Torrey Craig is definitely not going to be a bad thing moving forward. He still provides that little bit of firepower from three. We said before, we like the way he crashes the boards, chases his own shot. And look, I like Torrey Craig. We joke and we mess about that little dunk that he tried to do self alley-oop, but look, yeah, I liked him. I just wished we'd seen more of him last season, and obviously with the injury, it didn't happen.
Yeah, and then obviously the next bit of news, probably it's come to nothing so far, but qualifying offer to Adama Sanogo. Obviously, listening to a few other people and reading a few other things, seems like it could be just getting back on a two-way.
Yeah,
and initial thoughts where he could have been as the backup, but that's gone out the window now, which we'll get into in a minute. I know you liked what you saw of him in the G League last year.
Yeah.
Happy with that he's potentially back.
Yeah, I think, as a backup to the backup, as he was last year, and that's the position he's in again. I just hope he gets a little bit more opportunity to maybe prove himself going forward. That way, at least if we see him get a little bit more tick, we'll see whether or not he is or isn't made for the NBA game. Because at the moment, we're still not really entirely sure. He seems to excel in the G League, and then he comes up to the big boys, and he seems to not really quite get up to the level required just yet. And whether he'll get there or not, we'll have to wait and see. But I'd like to see him get the opportunity to try and prove whether or not he is or isn't, essentially an NBA player. And like you say, we thought he may have been a backup big. Doesn't look like that's going to happen now, which we'll talk about in a second. But at the same time, there still could be more moves to come, and that could end up becoming the case again. So I think it's good that they've given him the qualifying offer, and we'll see how everything else kind of unravels over the coming days and weeks, and see where we go from there.
Yeah, and obviously the last bit over the weekend, which I know you can't wait to talk about, verbal agreement with Patrick Williams on a 5-year deal, 90 million. Was it 18 million a season? 5th year being a player option. Yeah.
Okay, right.
I don't
First
even
and
know,
foremost,
need to ask you your reaction for that one.
well, I'm glad he's staying. Of course I am. But look, at the end of the day, look, it's not a terrible contract if that's what we're looking at. It's definitely something that gives him the opportunity now, especially with the direction that the Bulls seem to be taking. It gives him that opportunity to prove himself, and I'd already said that next year for me, I hoped he came back, and I looked at next year as being a prove it year for him. I know for other people it was last year or even the year before, but this is the year for me now. It's a real prove it year for Pat. And like, the injury really stunted him last season. Obviously, he's still not fully recovered, as we've heard recently. So he needs to come back and build himself back up. And he's got this year now to prove himself. He's on a decent contract. He's technically with the Bulls for the next 4 to 5 years. The only part of it I don't like is the player option. I hate player options. I really wish they'd stop doing them, because it can really tie them up, especially with trying to move the contract. It makes the contract less movable in the latter end of the contract, with that player option. But look, by rights, hopefully he will prove himself enough that he stays for the full tenure. And in which case, I think looking down the road, this could end up looking like a very, very good contract, a very savvy contract with Patrick. And look, it's his chance. My guy's been given the road now. He just needs to run down it and prove what he can do.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I said in my video that I liked the deal. It's maybe a little bit more than what I would have initially wanted to pay him, but it's also, I'm glad we didn't go too far the other way as well and pay him too much. Obviously, the health, that is a big concern at the minute, mainly because we just don't know, but that's not really any kind of surprise with Bulls, is it? And what I like most about it is the fact that AK gets these deals done. The Ayo and Kobe deals were very sort of prove it / team friendly / welcome back, and that kind of feels like what it is with PWill as well. Obviously, he's got more than them two, but at the end of the day, he's their guy, and he's be interested to know if they were getting ready to compete with anybody, or they just went straight in, because obviously last we heard they were going to offer him 16 million, which obviously he must have turned down. So whether he knows he's not going to get any more than that, obviously, was there anybody else around the league that was going to take a chance on him? Who knows? And look, if it doesn't work out, I think it's a tradable deal, or a tradable price, basically. Salary, that's the word I was looking for. And I mean, I don't think it'll come to that. I think he's probably going to be one of these that, I mean, what's that going to be, 9 years by the end of the deal that he's been with Bulls? That's showing a sense of loyalty on both sides, isn't it? So when, to be fair, there's not really been that much to be loyal to. But
And he'll still only be 28.
he'll forever be 21, boy.
Still be in his prime.
Whatever that is. It's like I keep saying, I don't think he's a bust by any means. I just don't get as excited by him as like you and others. To me, he's just there. He's just a role player. I think he's pretty much at his level, basically, which I'm happy to pay 18 mil for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I know that he can be better as well. He's just got to prove it now. So, obviously, free agency opened on Sunday night. Obviously, I put my last video out just before it did open. We both stayed up to it was 11 p.m. our time. I think it was about midnight by the time I eventually switched off, because it was very underwhelming. Not just from a Bulls point of view, but an NBA point of view. And I think because obviously teams are too scared about tampering and all that sort of stuff now, the deals are done. It's just a case of when they leak them to Woj or Shams or the sources or whoever it happens to be. Obviously, first bit of Bulls news that come was that Andre Drummond is going to, or signing his 2-year deal with Sixers.
Yeah.
And we knew it was coming. Not obviously to Sixers, but we knew he was going somewhere else. Obviously, instant reaction around Bulls Nation was the fact that we could have got 3 seconds for him back at trade deadline, and now he's gone for nothing. Now, I wasn't as pissed with that as what other people were. I've seen other podcasters that have, in my opinion, overreacted to it. Maybe to clip that little bit and put it out on the socials to get reactions and get watches. But if that's what they want to do, that's what they want to do. For me personally, I'd come to terms with it at trade deadline that we'd messed up. We should have moved him then. I don't see the point in getting angry about it now and overreacting to it now and stuff like that. It is what it is. We know AK's majorly messed up in the last however many months, not moving certain players. Caruso, another one of them. And now we're into it with Demar as well. And Drummond just sort of in the middle of that. Yeah, it'd have been nice to have 3 second-round picks or whatever it was that the offer was. But we got an extra game at home, didn't we, in the play-in? That was our reward.
What do you want? Do you want me to get excited about that? Do you want me to be happy? Yeah.
Jerry was happy.
It is what it is.
Yeah, like I say, to me, there's just no point overreacting to it. We knew it was coming. We knew AK had messed up. And just, obviously, good luck to Drummond. I think
absolutely.
He fits well there. He's probably going to get more games starting because Embiid can't stay healthy. He probably knows that himself. Obviously, they've got Paul George there now as well. Just maxed Maxi. So, they're going to be up there. And I think Drummond deserves that. He gave everything, I thought, whilst he was in Chicago. So you can't knock him for that. He obviously did put a tweet out yesterday as well, thanking Chicago and saying, how he felt about the place and how the city had his back and stuff like that, which I thought was a good touch.
Yeah, definitely.
Not every player does that. I mean, we didn't get anything from Caruso. Just saying. So obviously the players don't have to do it, but I respect the fact that he did it. And I think he'll be one player that does get a warm welcome back at the UC, regardless now. Do you know what I mean?
I think so, definitely, yeah.
I think Chicago basically fell in love with him. You either loved him or hated him, and I think in the end, you ended up loving him, just the good and the bad, and yeah, embrace the chaos, take the chaos to Philadelphia. So yeah, that was it. I mean, I was actually in bed when that happened, but you know, is what it is. Time zones, all that crap. But I was awake yesterday because it happened halfway through the day, didn't it? When we announced our first free agent signing.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, not somebody that was on the team, somebody new to the team, and it is Jalen Smith from Pacers. Now, it was weird because yesterday morning, obviously after we finally confirmed that Drummond wasn't going to be coming back, I started looking around at other free agents and stuff like that to see who could be an option other than Sonogo, which obviously we first thought. And Jalen Smith was the first name that I was looking at. They were basically settled on him and Bitadze from Magic, who just got 3 years at 25 mil, I think.
Yeah, I think that's what I heard.
I think is he 23, 24 as well. Obviously, Jalen Smith been 24. You know, so they were the two names I'd sort of gone on. I think they both offered different things, and for me, what Jalen Smith offers is versatility. I think he could quite easily slot in at the 4 as well. Obviously, he is listed as a 5, but I think he could quite easily slot in at the 4 as it stands alongside Vooch. Looking down his numbers, he's pretty inconsistent shooter. He's had some below 30%, but last season he was up at 40% for 3. Over his career, he's 33, 34% 3-point shooter on 2.3 attempts. He's only ever averaged sort of backup minutes, 16.5 minutes throughout his career, averaging 5.2 rebounds, 9.9 points. And he is more of a defensive rebounder than an offensive rebounder when you look down his things. He's not known for his defense, as in obviously stopping players, but I think he offers us a different dimension on offense because he's somebody that they're going to have to watch around the arc, whether he decides to shoot it or he decides to cut to the rim, either or. You know, he's capable of doing that. I think it's probably something, a move that's happened because of Giddey coming in.
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
You know, he's a bit more athletic. I think Drummond would have fit well with Giddey, to be fair, because he could get on lobs. Obviously, Vooch can't jump, so you know, I think he'll fit well with Giddey in the minutes they get together. You know, because of the way Giddey can pass, and I mean, I'm not overly excited by it, but I like it. The move, that is. Obviously, he's a very flawed player, but he's got a lot of potential as well. Obviously, number 10 pick in the 2020 draft by Phoenix.
Yeah.
Same draft as PWill.
Yep.
So we've now got the number 4 and the number 10 pick. And obviously, he spent a year and a bit with Phoenix before getting traded to Pacers. And he was moved to Pacers along with a second-round pick for Torrey Craig. So the two players involved in that trade are now teammates.
Yep.
I think he's one of them players that he's had to prove himself. He's had to prove why he went at 10. And I think, to be fair, he's probably still proving himself. But
well,
I mean,
him and Patrick can do it together.
Yeah. What do you think of it?
Yeah, I like it. I like it. It fits. It fits with the direction that AK seems to be taking the team in. I wish his offensive rebounding was a little bit higher than it is. I mean, his career average is 1.7 offensive rebounds per game, which isn't fantastic, but hopefully that will increase. It's something that he can work on. He was very good at defending the rim in college. If you go back and look at his college stats, he was a good blocker of the ball, and that's something that we certainly need, rim protection. So if he can kind of get back to that a little bit, I think that's something that we can certainly utilize from him. And he can run the floor a little bit. Obviously not with the ball, but he can run the floor and get on the end, like you say, get on the end of lobs, and hopefully that's something that he will be able to utilize through Giddey and the rest of the team. I like it. I like it as a backup. I hope he doesn't end up having to play as a starter if things change. I don't think that will necessarily be effective, but I think off the bench, he is certainly a good backup and a good replacement for Drummond.
Yeah, and obviously there was mixed reaction on the socials, as there is with anything. A few months back, people were saying we've got a tank. We've got a tank to get our top 10 pick next year. We need to get a Cooper Flag. We need to do this. We need to do that. We need to blow it up. We need to, get rid of everybody. Well, that seems what AK's trying to do. And now it's like, why have we signed him? This means we're not going to get more than 30 wins. Oh, is that not what tanking is? So I mean, obviously that is the last move that has been made, and it sets up this core on the roster now where a lot of it is 25 and under, or under 25. Jalen Smith, Kobe, and Ayo are all 24. I think they'll all be 25 by the end of the season. And then below that, obviously, you've got Dale and Terry, PWill. There's both 21, aren't they? 21, 22. Phillips is 20. Vucevic, 19. He'll be 20 at the start of the season. And obviously Josh Giddey at 21. And that's a solid-looking young core that needs a lot of work. I mean, to be fair, I said before, I don't really class Kobe and Ayo in this young core anymore. I think because, especially Kobe, because he's going into year 6. Can you be classed as a young player going into year 6?
Well, you can by age, but maybe not by experience.
Yeah, I mean, 24 is not particularly young, though, is it? Do you know what I mean? Especially if you've been in the league since you was 18, 19, it's, I mean, he is still technically young, and we are seeing him sort of develop now into this thing. But to me, he's the leader on the team as well now, because if we can eventually sort Zach Lavine out, he's going to be the longest tenured player on the team.
Yeah.
We saw him take a big leap in leadership last year. And he actually said that was part of the game he was wanting to work on the most. And so to me, I don't know if it's just because they've been on the team longer. I just don't see them as young players anymore. But people seem to be talking about this young core, but forgetting about DT and JP, doing Phillips.
Yeah.
And when you start looking down now at possible starting lineups with what we've got, you do seem to forget to add them in for some reason. But I think we're going to get what I've been saying that I want to see is they stay around the first team. They stay around and they become like viable role players. Don't know how good they're going to be, but at least they're going to get the minutes. At least they're going to get the chance to develop. And this young core is going to have to figure it out for itself.
Yeah.
But then that's where somebody like Torrey Craig comes in quite handy, because, like you said and I said in my video, you do need that veteran presence. And as much as Bulls Nation are out on Vooch, that's also what Vooch is going to add. I don't know how good it is, but he's somebody that they're going to look up to, and is, you know, in terms of how to prep for a game, how to, you know, manage 82 games, and, you know, because Vooch can do 82 games still. You know what I mean? We saw that not last year, the year before. So in that sense,
how to beat up a chair with a towel.
How to brick your threes, not defend. You know, either or. But I mean, I'm quite excited by what we are potentially going to see on the floor next year. It's different. AK said there was going to be change, and well, there's been change. Potentially more changes to come, and yeah, I mean, obviously, without knowing the complete roster, I'm not expecting a lot next season as it is. You know, I think it still looks like a team that is capable of pushing for the play-in. But I think it's also a team that is very capable of not winning more than 25 games due to lack of experience. But that's where the likes of Kobe, Ayo, PWill are all going to have to start stepping up now, innit? And
yeah,
that's what we want. You know, if we can keep that top 10 pick, but they develop again, and they develop as a core, and then you add a potential franchise standard player into it, as in Cooper Flag, or is it Ace Bailey, who's meant to be the second pick at the minute, then you've also got a lot more cap space as well, potentially, moving forward. So I don't think it's going to be a frustrating season, I think, or a disappointing season. Do you know what I mean? I think, you know, it's going to be fun at the minute. There's still things that need to happen first, but we'll get into that in a minute. So, yeah, I mean, what's your general sort of feel on the roster as it is?
Do you know, I think it was Casey Johnson that said it on the latest Bulls Talk episode that, you know, it's going to be a more entertaining season than we've had previously, because it's a lot easier to watch a team that you have low expectations for that might end up doing kind of just as well as the last team did, or there or thereabouts, as opposed to having expectations for a team and seeing them only kind of barely achieve it or underperform. So from that perspective alone, I'm kind of more interested in seeing how this develops. And do you know what? I think a lot of it's going to come down to chemistry, because there is talent here. You know, there's youth. They can technically play a fast-paced game. There's a lot of fast-running players, fast-moving players on the team, and that can be fun to watch. But it all depends on how well they gel together, how much their games mesh, and how much they get on with each other, both on and off the floor. So it'd be interesting to see how that kind of develops in ways of in regards to chemistry, because I think that could play into it in a big way.
Yeah, I mean, obviously with Josh Giddey, for example, you know, he's only 21, going on 22, but he's got 3 years experience in the league. You know, he played and did he start 80 games last season for the top seed in the West?
Yeah.
You know, that's not a bad player. Obviously, we know what happened and, you know, what came of it and stuff like that. But I get the feeling that nobody wants to come to Chicago in terms of free agency, or, you know, it's not a particular trade destination, purely because of how the organization's run and stuff like that. But then I kind of feel that when players get to Chicago, they pull on the jersey, they step out onto the UC floor and all that sort of stuff, kind of raises the game a little bit, because they realise just how iconic it is and what it actually means to the city, you know, to have a good team. You know, the fans are going to get behind them regardless. They'll say what they want on social media and, you know, say, oh, you sell the team, do this, blah, 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 don't buy the merch. Why is he signed? Why is this signed? Blah, blah, blah. But when they're out on the floor, the fans will be behind them. And that's why I think players like Giddey, players like Jalen Smith, they'll become favourites in Chicago just because if they play to their potential and they play that extra little bit about them, do you know what I mean, and stuff like that. It's like obviously Caruso was well liked because he gave everything when he stepped on the court.
Yes.
Javonte Green, fans love him because he gives everything when he steps on the court. If you do that as Josh Giddey or whatever, and you're putting up triple doubles and you're putting up 10 to 15 assists a night, and you're lobbing it for Jalen Smith, if it's fun basketball to watch and it's fun, basically fun basketball to watch, the fans are going to get behind it, and I think that'll give him a lift and can help him in certain games as well. But yeah, I think the move so far, this getting younger, I like it. So on to what needs to happen now. There's still a couple of questions remain out there. Obviously, Vooch is one that has been linked with being moved, but there's not really a lot of traction on that one. I think it's just basically people realising that Bulls are blowing it up and his name just gets thrown in the mix.
Wishful thinking.
Yeah. I mean, I fully expect Vooch to be back. Unless something major happens. I know everyone's saying that Pelicans are looking for a new big after Valanciunas has gone to, where did he go? Wizards, was it?
Was it? No.
Sure it was.
Hang on.
Because it shocked everyone because they've just obviously drafted Sarr, didn't they? But I just don't think Vooch, not at that price, is going to be...
Wizards. Yeah, you're right, Wizards. 3-year deal with the Wizards.
Yeah. Strange one. But I just can't see anybody really wanting Vooch at the minute. Not until maybe end of next year, deadline, possibly, going into his last year of his deal, but we'll see. So then obviously the two big ones, DeMar DeRozan, obviously officially he's not a Bull anymore. He's a free agent.
Yeah.
However, there's still the options of a sign and trade, which with our salary the way it is at the minute, I think it was 13 mil below the tax or something. Everyone's saying that sign and trade becomes more and more difficult because obviously Bulls won't go into the tax. But like you've got going across the bottom, why isn't anybody snapped him up? It was rumoured that Clippers were going to take a chance on him, and then they've signed DJJ, Chris Dunn, Mo Bamba, basically stacked the roster out with a couple of Bulls legends and Mo Bamba. Nick Batum as well, didn't they? So doesn't look like there's a space for him there. So now obviously the talk is to Lakers, and obviously the GM is willing to take a pay cut to get certain players to there.
Allegedly.
Obviously, drafted his son, which really annoyed me trying to watch the second round of the draft because that's all ESPN were talking about. I mean, I don't even know why they had to talk about it because we knew it was happening. And I'm just glad that I was asleep when he did actually get drafted because I can imagine it was horrible to watch.
I drifted myself, so I didn't have to put up with it either.
I mean, they could have just skipped straight to the 55th pick, really, couldn't they? And just had it over and done with.
That's all they wanted to talk about anyway.
Yeah. So, obviously, Lakers seem to be the team that everyone's saying at the minute for DeMar. It's, again, we should have moved him sooner.
Yes.
because as it is, we're getting nothing back for him, and yet we still owe out our first round pick next year, which is what we are tanking for, apparently. So, yeah, I mean, what's your thoughts on Demar?
Okay, well, it'll kill me to see him in a Lakers jersey, but that does look like the most viable option for him at this stage. I mean, there's talks of him trying to work out a sign and trade, and like you say, Lee Egypt has decided that he might take a pay cut in order to let that happen or allow that to happen. There's certain players he named. I think every one of them at this stage has signed somewhere else other than Demar. So we'll see how that pans out. I did also hear a rumor there just before I came on here that maybe Miami are interested in him.
Yeah, that's been there before, hasn't it?
Yeah. So I don't know whether there's any weight in that. I know it would probably kill you to see him in a Miami jersey, the same way as it will kill me to see him in a Lakers jersey. But look, at the end of the day, we need to lose his salary. We can't afford to take him on. I think he's made a mistake financially. If he'd signed with the Bulls, they were talking about 40 million, and now they're talking about a vet minimum somewhere for him if he goes somewhere else. And the Bulls aren't in a position now to say, actually, do you know what, Demar, if you want to stay here, we'll give you the original amount, because that's not going to happen. They can't afford to do it. So it's kind of he's at a bit of a end of a road situation, really. I don't know what way it's going to pan out, but it's going to have to end somewhere. It's going to have to go in some direction, because the only other decision he has in front of him is to take a hiatus, which I don't think, knowing Demar and how much he likes to play basketball, is something he'll want to do. It has also come out that the most likely scenario now is he'll probably have to take a 1-year deal. If he takes a 1-year deal somewhere, it gives him the opportunity to go back into free agency at the end of next season, and hopefully there'll be a bit more cap space, a bit more flexibility, and he'll have proved himself outside of Chicago that he can still do what he's been doing in Chicago. So maybe that would benefit him in the long run that way. Even though in the short term it's not maybe what he was looking for. But to be honest with you, I'm surprised he wasn't kind of given more interest around the league. I know he was never going to make the kind of money he could have made with Chicago. I mean, that was obvious. We'd said all season long that he was worth more to Chicago than he was to anywhere else. But I'm still surprised he hasn't been picked up somewhere, or at least fallen into more of the rumors. And at this stage, he is kind of the biggest free agent that's remaining out there yet to pick up a contract somewhere. So it has to come up somewhere soon, I would think, in the next kind of day or two.
Yeah. What's the situation with Jimmy Butler? Is he a free agent, or is he just?
I think the last I heard on Jimmy Butler was he had decided he would opt in to stay with Miami, but I didn't hear figures or anything official.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any official sort of thing. It just made me think when you said then, obviously Miami was an option for Demar, but I mean, I feel a bit sorry for Demar. Do you know what I mean? I love him. Love what he did at Bulls, and he's in a similar situation to what he was when Bulls actually signed him, in the sense that he's seemingly got his heart set on going to LA, and now that's just not going to happen again. Or possibly not, or and obviously he put that thing out the other week where he said there's 3 things he wants: obviously money, happiness, and winning. As it is, he's going to end up with none of them, isn't it? And it's like,
I know, yeah.
At least if he'd have stayed in Chicago, he'd have had money. He'd have been happy because he said that he wanted to be there. Winning, yeah, okay. If he does go to Lakers on a 1-year deal with hardly any money, he's not got his money. Will they win? Hopefully not. But at least he'll be happy because he's home. So
yeah,
I think at some point somebody completely random will just throw something at him. Whether it's somebody completely random like Pistons or one of these teams that's got space, need to fill the roster out, whatever it happens to be. Just and I think he'll just have to take it if he wants to.
Yeah, he won't have a choice.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, hopefully it works out. Hopefully it works out in Bulls' favour as well, and we can sort some sort of sign and trade out. You know, I don't want to see him at that sort of a team like a Pistons or somewhere random. I would like to see him have a chance of winning. I'm not going to say I'd be happy to see him with Lakers, but if that's where he's got a chance of winning, then whatever.
Yeah.
So, and then obviously the last one, Mr. Zach Lavine. As it is, he is a Bull. As it is, he's going to stay a Bull. It just seems, hearing different rumours, different reports. There's no market. There's no market. There's a slight market. There's no market. It's to a point now where apparently Bulls are just trying to dump his salary, and we're having to look at attaching picks to do that as well, which it's shocking. And the only explanation I can think is the contract.
Yeah, it has to be.
It's got nothing to do with Zach as a person, Zach as a player, because the league know what he is as a person. They know what he is as a player. All right, you can say he's got health concerns, but which 30-year-old NBA player hasn't? They've all got injuries of some sort, unless the LeBron that spends $10 million a year on ice chambers and stuff at 40-year-old. But even LeBron, his body is starting to wear down. Do you know what I mean?
It is.
So, to me, it is just purely the contract. And when you see other players out there getting these extensions, Tatum's just got one, Donovan Mitchell's getting one. Zach's contract is nothing compared to them.
No.
But if you've got that sort of a player like a Tatum, for example, on that sort of money, like a Donovan Mitchell on that sort of money, you haven't got room for Zach on that sort of money. And I think that's ultimately what it's coming down to at the minute. So, I mean, the question I've got for you, are you ready to see Zach back in a Bulls uniform?
No, but I'm prepared. I'm not. I told you that chapter was closed for me. But unfortunately, realistically speaking, it's looking more and more likely. Now, the only thing I'm hoping that if we do see him back, that he plays his socks off and the Bulls still have enough sense that if he raises his trade value around the league when he comes back, that they still shop him. What I hope doesn't end up happening is if he starts playing well, that they kind of go, oh, okay, actually, maybe Zach's worth hanging on to, and they hold on to him, and then they find themselves back in the same position again in a year or two. I think if he does manage to play himself back into interest around the league, they need to get rid of him there and then.
Whatever the deal.
Whatever the deal. Whatever you can get, just get rid of him.
Yeah.
That's because look, go on.
That's where I'm at with it as well. And it's if he's back, unfortunately, he's got to play, because that is the only way we're eventually going to get rid of him, because he's going to.
Yeah, and surely he knows that for himself too.
Yeah, and that whatever the feelings are between him and Bulls, he's going to go out there and he is going to put up 25, 30 points a night. He's going to be shooting threes. He's going to be, his athletic, explosive self, just to say, look, I can still do it. I am still Lavine. And the thing where I'm thinking is, like, they have to play him, which means they're going to have to start him, really.
Mm-hmm.
So you're then taking away maybe Kobe's spot. So this is where it becomes detrimental to the likes of Kobe's development again. But is there anybody better than Giddey for him to be playing alongside?
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, the best player on the team for getting on the end of lobs is Zach. And the best player to feed the ball to is probably Zach as well. So you can see why it could work. You can see why it would look good. But this is the whole fear that I have, is that it could look good. Like, because Zach is going to be, even though he's only in his second year of a contract that's 4 years long, he's in a contract year by rights because he's playing for a contract somewhere else. So he'll be playing his socks off to try and win favor around the league. And like I say, my fear is that then AK goes, this is working. We're back to what we had with 35 games in the past, back when Zoe and it was all working then. And we know how long he overstayed that welcome and held on to that for too long. And I'd just be afraid that he would become enamored with the way it's working with Zach, hang on to him when deep down Zach doesn't want to be there anymore. And the reason why Zach is so hard to move is because he's on an alpha player contract and he's not an alpha player. And this is the problem. He is a second or third, core player in any team. He's not the alpha. He just doesn't have that about him. He has a lot about his game. And I think for other teams around the league, they are not prepared to pay him as a premium player when he is not going to be their premium star. And that's why the contract's so hard to move.
Yeah. I mean, as you've got going across the bottom, Kings and Warriors are listed as potential suitors. Now, that's come from Casey Johnson, who, correct, if anybody pays much attention to Casey Johnson, you'll know he loves Zach. This is probably really painful for him at the minute, to be fair, because I think he likes Zach. He wants Zach to stay because of how he is as a person. But he knows the Bulls have got to find a home for him. And I mean, I don't know if he's going off what he's heard, if he's, like obviously as every other reporter does, they've got sources and stuff like that to say that Kings and Warriors are still potential suitors. See, Kings reportedly looking at Brandon Ingram at the minute. So it always seems there's another player just in front of Zach. And this is why I think there's still that slight possibility that he does go, because once the market's been exhausted, and it's like, Warriors in particular, they've just got rid of Klay Thompson, Chris Paul's gone. It's like they've not brought anybody in. Well, they've got they did sign somebody, I can't remember who it was now, but nobody special. And it's like, if Zach's their only option, a way of adding an all-star level player, because let's not forget, Zach is a two-time all-star.
Yeah.
That's when he becomes their option. And I think Warriors have basically reportedly rejected that deal the other day. Was it Zach for CP3 and Wiggins? Mm-hmm. And then obviously they waived CP3. And I think Warriors are basically holding on, and they're going to get him as cheap as they can. Basically, there'll be a player on the roster that they want rid of, a young player or whatever, to make the salaries work if they need to. Maybe throw a second round pick at it, and they say, right, take it or leave it. That's what I think. And if all else fails, Harrison Barnes and Kevin Huerter. Because that's the deal that's constantly going around with Kings. And I think they probably could even get away without offering them two at the minute. Maybe just one of them. So,
scary, isn't it?
Yeah. Not. I mean, obviously, AK's got himself to blame for, I think, backing himself into this corner. He seems to be doing all he can to get out of this corner. So, yeah. I've got nothing else. I don't know if you have.
No, I just would rather see him moved now. I don't think it's looking as likely as it was. And we'll see how it all transpires, I guess. But again, like that, Zach adds value to a team. And, you know, he really, really does. And we've seen that. It's limited to a degree. But we need to get him off our books, basically.
Yeah.
He's just costing us too much money, and it's not working. It hasn't worked for too long.
Yeah.
And I just think it's reached the end of the road. It's time for him to move on. And it looks like they're trying, and it's just not working out. So hopefully we see this develop further the same way as the Demar situation. And we could very well be recording a pod next week with both of them gone, or we could be recording a pod next week with Zach Lavine definitely staying. So we'll see.
Yeah, obviously, if anything does happen in the meantime, we'll probably drop a solo video if it's warrants it. But if not, we'll be back next week. One other thing is, don't forget, our shop is open. I'm sporting the Flop of the Fro t-shirt tonight. The link will be in the video description. Go check it out. There will be more designs going on there as and when. And well, until next time, I don't know when next time will be. Could be tomorrow, could be next week. Who knows? I've been Matt. You can find me on Twitter at MattCRedUK, and you can find us on all the socials at CRedUK.
And you find me on Twitter at NeillCRedUK. On behalf of both Matt, myself, and the Fans First Sports Network, thanks once again to everyone for tuning in. From us both, do remember it's a Chicago Bulls thing wherever in the world you are. Until next time, see red people and go Bulls.